Good day, sir. Good day, everyone. By the way, my name is Carl Vincent Guspo from Bachelor of Science in Criminology, Year 2, Block B. This time, I'm going to discuss all about or what I have learned about fingerprints. Um, Here it comes. What is nature of fingerprints? A fingerprint. First, a fingerprint is a composite of the ridge outline which appears on the skin surface of the bulbs on the inside of the end of joints of the fingers and bulbs and thumbs rather. The ridges appearing in the fingerprints are commonly referred to as papillary or fictional ridges. The ridges have a definite contour and appear in definite individuals details by which positive identification can be made. Okay, let's proceed to studying fingerprints. There are principles or basic principles of fingerprints as science. By the way, what are the basic principles of fingerprints as science? We have three dogmatic principles. First, we have principle of individuality or as one called variation. There are no two fingerprints that are exactly alike unless taken from the same finger. The second one is principle of permanency or constancy, perennial or immutable. The configuration and details of individual ridges remain constant and unchanging till after the final decomposition of the body. And the last one is we have principle of infallibility. That fingerprint is a reliable means of personal identification, and all courts accept and adopt fingerprint as a means of personal identification. And so on. Let's proceed to rules on fingerprint patterns. Let's discuss first about a radial loop. A radial loop, or stands for R, derived its name from the radius bone of the forearm. It is one type of fingerprint patterns in which the ridges run its direction to the radius bone or the thumb, like this one. As you can see, the ulnar loop is one type of fingerprint pattern in which the ridges flow towards the ulnar bone or little finger. Ulnar loop therefore derived its name from the ulnar bone of the forearm or little finger. Its symbol is letter U in classification purposes. It's like from a radial loop, but it's a different position or ang iyang pagplaster sa kamot. Take note, a pattern to be looked at may have the following four essential requisites. Number 1, it must have a core. It must have a delta. An imaginary line must pass between the core and the delta. And it must have a ridge count of minimum at least 1. Okay. Sabta na nato ang ulnar o radial loop, and we proceed to next is plain whorl. It's symbolized by letter W in the classification. Plain whorl, it is a fingerprint pattern which there are two deltas and which at least one ridge makes a turn through one complete circuit. An imaginary line through between the two deltas must touch or across at least one of the circuiting rule ridges within the pattern area. And the next is central pocket loop word. It's symbolized by letter C in the classification. Central pocket loop word, it is a fingerprint pattern which must part of loop but which has small whorl inside the loop ridges, sometimes called a composite pattern, which means that is made up two patterns in one, a whorl inside a whorl, rather loop. It has two deltas, one of which appears as the edge the pattern's area as in plain loop, and one show inside the pattern area just below the counterpart ridges. This whorl, kalahian sa whorl og arc and loop. Ang whorl is diha naay two deltas and one core, and the arc and the loop, it is have one delta lamang. Okay, let's proceed. Double whorl loop, but D in the classification. A double top whorl, double loop whorl is a pattern consisting two separate and distinct loop formations. One of the loops runs or overlaps the other, also called composite pattern. Like the central pocket loop whorl, it is arises from the fact that these patterns are composite or combination of two patterns in one, with two cores and two deltas. Similar sila na ay whorl, but lahi sila o plaster or pattern. Next is accidental whorl, symbolized by letter X in the classification. It is a pattern which is the combination of two or more different type of pattern except in the plain arc. Ang plain arc is which is the combination of two or more different types of pattern except in the plain arc, but it can be a combination of a loop and a whorl. A loop and a central pocket loop whorl, or any combination of two or more different loops and whorl type patterns. This accidental whorl is itong nanatanan mga pattern na makita nimo sa thumbs. Next is a plain arc. Plain arc is symbolized by letter E in the classification. Plain arc, it is a fingerprint pattern which the ridge intern on one side of the pattern and flow towards the other side, will arise that the center with not more than one of the four essential requisites for the pattern, and with no recurving ridges or no regular formation and no upward thrust. Means we have to show that we have to take note there that it enters to the left and flows towards the right. Tinted arches, symbolized by letter T in the classification. It is a variety of arc family, but their ridge formation are not simple as those of plain arc, are also considered transnational pattern between a plain arc and loop. Generally speaking, tinted arches are formed in any these three-way formation to it. One or several ridges in the center of the form an upthrust. The ridges or ridge in the center form a well-defined angle. So it means na siya ay angle. The pattern way or may have two or three or four essential requisites of a loop pattern. That's all for my video, and I hope you learn from it. Thank you and God bless.